In this video, we're going to continue finding the lowest common multiple. So we're going to find the lowest common multiple of x to the fifth minus 6x to the fourth plus 9x cubed, 3x cubed minus 27x, and 2x plus 6. Here we go. The first thing we need to do is factor each polynomial. Okay, so we might have to do a bit of work here, and then we'll put it back together. So in order to do that, let's start with our first one. X to the fifth minus 6x to the fourth plus 9x cubed. When we look at this polynomial, the first thing we see is that we have a greatest common factor of x cubed. So the first step is to factor the x cubed, and then we have x squared minus 6x plus 9. Now, if you're not sure how to factor x squared minus 6x plus 9, let's play the game. So in the top spot, I try to take a 1 times 9 to get a 9. The bottom spot, I have a minus 6. And it looks like if I use a negative 3 and a negative 3, that satisfies the game. So let's try this again. This gives me x cubed times x squared. The minus 6x becomes a minus 3x minus 3x. And then we have a plus 9 still. And now, there's no greatest common factor, but there is a common factor in the polynomial in the parentheses. So I have x cubed. My first group becomes x times x minus 3. My second group becomes minus 3 times x minus 3. And look at what we've done. We found a new greatest common factor. So we have x cubed, x minus 3, x minus 3. Or you might also write it as x cubed times x minus 3 squared. That's the first one. Okay, let's go to the next one. Our next polynomial to factor is 3 x cubed minus 27x. Again, notice that there's a greatest common factor. What do we have? Of x. So let's factor in x. Actually, you know what? I misspoke. There's a greatest common factor of 3x. So let's take a 3x. We want the greatest common factor. So if I take that, I have 3x. That's going to leave an x squared minus 9. Oh, but recall that sometimes it's nice to work down the problem like I did here. And sometimes it's also nice to just work across, maybe if the problem doesn't take so much space. But they're the same problem, or the same way to represent your steps. So if you're not sure what to do, though, I would say use this one, the down ID. Okay, back to our problem. But notice that we have 3x, x squared minus 3 squared. But that's a difference of squares, so I have 3x, x plus 3, x minus 3. Okay, our last polynomial, let's check, is 2x plus 6. 2x plus 6, and that just has a greatest common factor of 2. So I have x plus 3. All right, now let's list each one of these out in their fully factored form, and then we can compare. So for my first polynomial, I have an x cubed times, I'm going to leave a little space just in case we need to annotate anywhere in here, x minus 3 squared. Our second polynomial, we have a 3. We have an x. Then we do have an x minus 3. And we have an x plus 3. And our final polynomial, we have a 2. So let's start a 2 column out here. and I have an x plus 3. Now, to find the lowest common multiple, let's take a look at each column. My first column here is there's only a 2, so we need a 2. Because the first polynomial has no 2 in here. The second has no 2, but the last one has 1. And remember, we take the greatest count. So in our next column, we have a 3, whereas the 3's, and notice that it's 0 from the first polynomial, 1 from the second, 0 from the third. So we take the highest count, that's 1, 3 times. In our next column, look at this. These are just x's. Our first one had 3x cubed. That's an x times x times x. The second polynomial just had an x, and the third one had none. So we take the greatest count, that's x cubed. We move to our next column over here, and the first one we have an x minus 3 squared. The second one we have an x, just one x minus 3. You could always think of it as to the first power here. And then our last one we don't have any, so we need our greatest count. So we'll have an x minus 3 squared. And our last column now, let's see. Notice that we don't have any x plus 3's in the first column, or from the first polynomial. We have 1 from the second and 1 from the third, so our greatest count for x plus 3's is just 1. So multiply all that back together, and that is your lowest common multiple. Thanks for watching.